You know the story we all learn in school, right? Stone tools, farming, big empires, and boom, the space age. But what if that whole timeline is, well, missing a few crucial chapters? What if our ancient ancestors knew way more about the universe than we ever give them credit for? Today, we're digging into a really provocative idea, that the history we think we know might not be the whole story.
So this is really the question at the heart of it all. When we dig up these ancient myths and legends, are we just looking at really creative stories? Or could we be looking at eyewitness accounts of technology and events that we're only just now starting to understand ourselves? It's a fascinating tug-of-war between metaphor and what could be a forgotten reality.
Okay, so the core idea we're exploring is pretty radical. What happens if we just stop reading ancient scriptures as pure mythology for a second, and instead look at them like they're historical records, or maybe even technical manuals describing some seriously advanced science, everything from star maps to rocketry, all just hidden in plain sight? So, where does an idea like this even come from? Well, proponents point to some really fascinating, really specific examples from ancient texts all over the world, and they believe these aren't just stories. They're evidence of a technological past that we've completely forgotten about. First up, we've got to talk about Vimanas. This is a word from ancient Sanskrit texts. And listen, it doesn't just mean a chariot or a bird. The descriptions are way more complex, detailing these flying machines that could supposedly travel not just in our atmosphere, but between planets. Now, historians see these as powerful metaphors in epic poetry, but proponents of this theory, they read these descriptions and take them literally.
And what's really wild is that this isn't just an isolated thing. Over in India, you have the texts about Vimanas. Then you go to Egypt and you find hieroglyphs that some people interpret as figures in astronaut-like suits, or even carvings that look a whole lot like giant light bulbs. And of course, in Abrahamic texts, there are the famous chariots of fire coming down from the sky. It's important to say, though, that mainstream archaeologists have very different ideas. They see a lotus flower with a snake, not a light bulb, and a carving of a pharaoh, not an astronaut.
And that really gets to the core of the argument. We've got all these different cultures, thousands of miles and years apart, with no known contact. Are they all just coincidentally making up similar stories about flying things from the sky? Or is it possible they were all documenting the same, real phenomenon that they actually saw?
The argument actually gets even stranger because it goes beyond just flying machines and dives deep into astronomy. We start to find ancient cultures that seem to have knowledge about the cosmos that, honestly, they just shouldn't have had.
A classic example of this is the Dogon Tribe in Mali, Africa. For centuries, they've passed down this incredibly sacred knowledge about the stars. But here's the thing. Their knowledge includes specific details that our astronomers only managed to confirm in the 20th century, and only with really powerful telescopes.
Okay, let's just break this down, because this is where it gets really weird. The Dogon knew all about Sirius B. That's the tiny companion star to the bright star Sirius A. The problem? Sirius B is a white dwarf. It is so faint and so small that it is absolutely 100% impossible to see with the naked eye. No way. And yet, the Dogon knew it existed, they knew it had a 50-year orbit, and they even knew it was incredibly dense. So how?
Well, if you ask the Dogon people, they have a very direct answer. Their tradition says this information was given to them by beings they call the Nomos, these amphibious creatures who came from the Sirius star system. Now, of course, skeptics have a different take. They point out that the anthropologist who first recorded all this in the 1930s might have accidentally introduced these modern ideas himself, or maybe the knowledge came from other modern visitors. So the real origin is still a pretty hot debate.
The Dogon aren't the only ones with this deep celestial connection. The Great Pyramids of Giza, they show a similar obsession. Their layout on the ground isn't random. According to what's called the Orion Correlation theory, the three pyramids are an almost perfect map of the three main stars in Orion's belt. The precision is just staggering. Now, it is important to note that most Egyptologists really challenge this theory, saying the alignment isn't exact and could just be a coincidence.
But if the alignment is intentional, you have to ask, why? Why go to all that trouble to align these massive monuments with one specific constellation? Was it some kind of map? Maybe a giant welcome sign for someone they were expecting to come back? Or, as some suggest, does it point to an origin story that is just way bigger than we can even imagine?
So when you put all these different pieces together, the strange texts, the impossible astronomical knowledge, those celestial alignments, you're left with this incredible debate. Are these just a series of really interesting misunderstandings and coincidences? Or are they genuine clues pointing to a lost chapter of human history?
It is a pretty wild thought, isn't it? As our most powerful tools, like the James Webb Space Telescope, look deeper and deeper into space, are we really exploring something new? Or, as this theory suggests, are we just catching up? Finally getting the technology to prove what might have been written down thousands of years ago?
And that really brings us to the final, huge question that this whole idea leaves you with. It makes you rethink our place in time. When we look up at the stars, are we the first intelligent civilization on this planet to do that? Or are we maybe just the latest in a long and perhaps forgotten line? Definitely something to think about.